So moving on now. Um, in our last class, right, I talked about tag selectors. And I said, when we talk about tag selectors, it is basically, how everybody hearing me? It is basically selecting HTML elements, HTML tags, and then styling them up in CSS, right? Now, when we talk about classes and IDs, it's much more, a little bit different to the way you style your normal tag selectors. Now, classes and IDs are attributes given to elements to give them additional names. That's what that's the basic definition of class and ID. What am I saying? You have your P tag here, right? Normally, this P tag is what? That's the normal tag, P, right? And I added an ID of first to it. This means that what? This P tag now has a new identity, a new name of what? First. So if I try to style up first in my CSS, what happens? Only this P tag is going to be what? Style. You understand it now? It's just like saying that you have over all of us, we are humans, right? So we have similar features. But when we now talk about Paul and David, right, we are probably, a little bit different. Maybe I'm a little bit darker or is a little bit darker than me, right? We have two different names, even though our general name is what? Human. But we have what? Two different names. His name is David, my name is Paul. It's the same thing with this Peter. You understand it now? Peter, you have a general Peter, but then you cannot have IDs that will help you differentiate between these tags. You understand it now? That's why when I gave you an idea of what first, right? I had just said that okay, this particular P tag is not different from this one, it's different from this one, it's different from this one. They are all P tags, right? But then we have different names. That is why when I went ahead to give this a color of blue, what happened? This first is not having a different color from what the second. And one thing that you need to note is that if you want to style your, I'm going to remove this again so you can see what I'm trying to say. If you want to style your ID, start with an hash. If you are trying to style your picture, just write picture, then this, right? If you want to style your ID, you have to start with an hash first to signify that it's an ID. Hash, then what? First, because that's the name. So I can go ahead and give you the color now of what of blue. Similarly, I want to style second. Hash what? Second, right? Then I'm going to give it this. Then I'm going to give it a color of what? Let's say green. Right? Then we're going to have third. Then I'm going to give this a color of what? Of, let's say orange. You understand? So now, if I go ahead and check it out now, as you can see, we have what? Blue, green, and what? Orange. Yes, on the CSS. Again, on your HTML, all you have to do on your HTML is go ahead and give it what? An ID. Then on your CSS, you have to always proceed with an hash for it to work. Without this hash, it's never going to work. Let me just show you what I'm trying to say. If I remove this hash from the first now, it is just going to treat that first as black. It's not really affecting it. It's going to treat this first as an element. And there is nothing like first in HTML element. You understand? There's no tag that depicts or shows that has a meaning of first. So you have to what? Specify that this particular element is an attribute of ID. So, and how do you style ID attributes? Use what? Hash for it to work. Is it clear? We're not yet. Is it clear? All right. So that is basically what your ID is talking about. So I'm going to explain this again so you understand it. I think I explained it in our last class. This should be clear. So for you to style your IDs, you have to what? Always proceed them with what? Hash for it to work. So it's very, very clear that you all understand this. So now the next thing I will be talking about now is class names. What exactly do you mean by class name? So I said in our last class, I said CSS selectors are basically ways of selecting CSS elements and styling them up, right? So we talked about your tag names, we talked about IDs, right? Now in today's class, we're talking about classes. So What do you mean by class names? Class names are similar. They are synonymous to this synonymous. They are similar to IDs, right? They do the same thing as your IDs. Now, let me explain what I'm trying to say. I can go ahead and I can come here and say, uh, let's have a div tag. So let me create a div tag, right? And in this div tag, I'm going to put every single thing here. And I'm going to create another div tag. I'm going to duplicate it. So now we have two div tags, right? The first one is this, and the second one is this. I can go ahead and give this div tag a class name. I'm going to give the class name. Let me also give the class name of first. They don't let me confuse us. Let me just give the class name of let me just say first. I'm lost of I don't have any name right now. Let me give the class name of what end. Now, what have I just done? You know, I told you that divs are basically grouping elements together, right? So what I have just done now is that the first one that is here, I gave it the class name of what first. But both of them are div tags, right? Just like I said, you can have collection of elements that have the same that the same elements, but they are the same elements, but they have different class names. The different class names means that they probably styled differently. You understand it now? I hope I'm not speaking. Okay, great. So they will probably be styled differently. So now that's basically what your class name and your ID do for you. Now, if I go ahead and want to style this particular tag, I can go ahead and say dot first. I can give it a class name. Sorry, I can give it a background color of, let's say, red. Now, I need you to know the difference between this and this. What's the difference? Dot and hash. That means for you to style the class name, use what? Use your dot. You understand? For you to style your hashtags or your IDs, right? What do you use? Use your hash. You understand it now? So when I'm styling this particular ID here that says first, ID of first, what did I use? I use an hash first. When I'm trying to style this class name of what first, I use what dot first. Maybe one of these days I have to, like, maybe on Friday, I'll just do a revision class for the new student, both you and John. I just hope there's not going to be another new student after this, because I won't go back, honestly. So what I can do is that I want everybody to, like, new student. Okay. No. Did you were part of the, and she's here. You say? Microsoft. Yeah. And you can take down. All right. So where did you stop? Okay, yeah, I said I was going to do a revision for Mr. John, and I didn't get your name the last time. What's your name? Tochi, Mr. John and Miss Tochi. So Ugochi, okay, Ugochi. Sorry, I stressed that a little bit. So Mr. John and Miss Ugochi, right? So I'm gonna, like, try to do even just 1 hour on Friday. So I'll just try to do a revision class, but I will still beg us, please go ahead and watch those videos. Very important. So all right. Now where did you stop? Now, if you go ahead and check your browser now, what are you gonna have? You're gonna have a background color, what? Red. Ignore the bright color, but just understand the point. So I use the word a dot first of what, and I give the background color of what, red. Now, once you check it out, you can see that what only this particular div has that background color of red. This one is also a div, isn't it? But it does not have that color. Only this one has what? The color. That shows something. That shows that when we talk about class names, right? And I am basically telling you that we want to give this element. So we want to give this element a unique name, a unique styling, unique, different styling. You understand it now from other similar elements. That's basically what classes and ID are going to help you. Do you understand it? Study with that coming again. Do you understand? Is it clear? All right. So, Mr. Kelvin and Mr. Shegun. Mr. Shegun, welcome. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Mr. Paul. I can hear you.
All right. Good morning. So, Mr. Kelvin, do you understand it? Is it clear to you?
Not really, sir. It seems you are too fast.
Okay. So, I'm going to explain it again. So that everybody understands it. So let's start again. Good morning, everyone. In our last class, we talked about CSS selectors, right? And I said CSS selectors are basically ways of selecting HTML elements and styling them in your CSS, right? That's what CSS selectors are. Now, I talked about three main selectors that we have. The first is what? The tag or your element selector. Second is your classes. And the third is which one? ID. Good. Now, in our last class, we talked about tags. And I said your tag selector is basically picking up a particular element and styling them directly in CSS. So, and I give an example. So, for instance, this H1 is an element, right? The tag. That's the tag name. I can come here and I can say H1, right? And I can give it a color. You know what? I'm going to delete this first. So, your H1, I can go ahead and I can give it a color. So, let's do the color of orange. Right? So let's go ahead and check what we have out now. So if you check it out now, I gave every H1 color here the color of orange. Do you have a question? Okay, please go ahead. Okay. This is the HTML. This is CSS. I split my screen so you can understand it. You know what? Maybe it is confusing us. Let me remove. So, no, this is HTML. So what I now did was that I split, let me just split my screen again. So I put HTML here. I can write HTML here, I can write CSS here. I just set. All right, good. So now, your H1 tag, I just selected H1 tag directly. You understand? And I'm styling it up. Similarly, I can do the same thing for my P tag. And I can say P tag, color, let's give it a color of green. You understand it now? So if you check the output, you have all your P tags to be green. Now, but one thing is that as you are writing codes, as you are building projects, you will not always have you will have P tags multiple times, just like you have three P tags now. Sometimes you don't want to style this P tag exactly like the second P tag. So let me give an example of a very practical, a very glaring example. Let's use go.com. So I like using this blog a lot. All right, good. Now let's look for the perfect. Okay, this is a very good story. Who's a Chelsea fan here? So now, please let us look at this. Look at this line here. You can see that they are like, this is a P tag, right? But note that this one is, where is it? This one is a bit bolder, right? Why is it moving? This one is a bit bolder. Then this one is like a normal text, if you notice, but they are all on the same line. Similar text, the same text. Now, what happens when you want to do something like that? Now, you put all of them in one particular tag, right? But you want to have two different styles, two separate styles. One is bold, while one is a normal text. How do you do something like that? Now, in this place now, I can just go ahead and give it a P tag. So now we have a P tag here. So what if I want to have one P tag that is here and another P tag here, but two different stylings? But I already gave it green here. How do I now have two different stylings if all of them are having a green color? That is where your ID and your class name comes in. So I can give this a class name, an ID of first, an ID of second, and style them differently. Someone's trying to Okay. So I can give this a class name of first, and sorry, an ID of first, this an ID of second, and then I can style them differently so that they can have two separate stylings. Now, what am I saying? I can come here and say as first. Note that to use your ID, you have to always precede it with an hash. That's your identity name, your ID with an hash. So I can now go ahead and I can say, let's say hash first, right? Let me give it a color of blue, right? And then I'm going to give it a font weight. We're going to get to this one very soon. I'm going to give it a font weight of 900, just to show you something. Now, if you check the first one out now, you note something. This one is a little bit bolder than this one, right? And then the color is blue. Can you see it? It is blue, and then it's what is bolder. Now, that is one thing about IDs and classes. So you have an element, yes. But one thing about classes and IDs going to do is that it's going to separate those elements, by the ID and the class name. Is it clear now? So, Mr. Kelvin, do you understand IDs now? Is it clear to you? And Mr. Shegun, is it clear to you?
Yes.
Yes. All right, good. So that is that about IDs. I think we did IDs in our last class. I'm just trying to go over it again. So now the next one is your class name. Class names are similar to ID, right? Now, I told you that I was going to tell you why we use class name and why we use IDs in our last class. But let us focus on understanding the syntax first. So now, I gave an example here again. I used a class name here, and I gave it a class name of first. Now, you might be thinking, have I not just given Peter ID of first before? So now that I'm giving this particular D a class of first, won't they clash? Now, they're not going to clash because the syntax of a class name is different from that of an ID. If I want to use this particular class name now, I will not proceed with it with an hash. I will use a what? A dot first. You understand it now? So for you to use your ID, what do you use? Your ID is hash, then your class is a what? A dot. You understand it now? So I need you to note this. In this place, when I was doing ID, I used hash first. But right here, I'm using what? Dot first. So now I can go ahead and I can give this a background color. Background, and I can give it a background of red. So now if you go ahead and you check it out now, you should have a background of what? Of red. So you see what I'm trying to say? It's too bright for you. Okay. Let me change it to a spark color. So as you can see, you have two divs, but one has a background of blue, one has a normal white background. So that's what class names are going to do for you. So class name and ID are just basically talking about giving elements separate names so that you can style them different. Now, when you get to JavaScript, you understand why classes and IDs. You understand why classes and IDs are very much important. So please use your imagination as I'm explaining. So classes and IDs are very much important when you are trying to have different styling, even different functionalities. I told you that JavaScript is more about functionality, right? So this is what they do. So let's pause the class here. I'm going to give us 5 minutes to talk about classes more, and then we'll move into why we use classes and why we use IDs. So for those online, in case you're trying to ask a question, please just